Well, welcome into our virtual town hall here with TCU Athletics. I'm Brian Estridge, along with the athletic director, Jeremiah Donati. Every year we look forward to this, Jeremiah, an opportunity to get together to talk about the state of the state, if you will. And this year is no different. It's good to see your face, and I think it's good for everyone to see your face at this point. We got to get out when we can, right?
Yeah, well, first of all, it's good to see your face too, Brian. And I always look forward to our state of athletics, our town hall, if you will. And this year it's virtual. So just excited to be with you and excited to talk TCU athletics.
You know, it's been a crazy couple of months. Let's just be honest. It has been a crazy couple of months. It's something that no one could prepare for, no one had planned on. Give us some perspective on what these last 90 days have been like for you. And let's go back to March when this occurred, if we could. And I guess it really hasn't been a full 90 days, but you think about how it's going to stretch out. Give us some perspective on what mid-March was like for you from then on.
Well, I believe it was 5 weeks ago to the day where we made a decision at the Big 12 tournament, and slowly our world kind of got turned upside down, as it were. And that's the last time actually I saw you.
Yeah.
It's been challenging. It's been, people use the word, uncharted waters, unprecedented, and those are all true. Those are probably, being quite a bit overused, but this is at the very least unfamiliar territory. There's no playbook on how to navigate this time in this space. And so we're taking it one day at a time. I continue to tell the team that, we need to master today. It's a little difficult not having a finish line. It's a little difficult not being able to say by June 1 or July 1 we'll be here. We are really, truly, at the mercy, of this virus. And so we don't know what the bottom of the lake looks like yet. And so we're just taking it day by day. But I'm incredibly encouraged. Our staff is wonderful. Chancellor Boschini and our trustees, we just have awesome leadership around here. And so that's really helped us through at this point. And, we'll be ready for what's coming.
I want to go back to 5 weeks ago, and then we learned that the seasons were going to be over with for many of the sports here in the spring, and we learned also about what was happening with women's basketball, which was headed to postseason, and that was just going to be an amazing run. It just felt like it. What were those conversations like with coaches and players?
Tough, very tough, and most notably Reagan Peebley and her team. Our women's basketball team, they were having an incredible season. They were on quite a roll. They were the number 2 seed in the Big 12 tournament for the first time since we had been in the conference. We expected a deep tournament run. And to have that cut short literally while they were at practice in Kansas City when I made the call, and I told her what had happened. And she handled it like a champion, like the champion she is. It's beyond disappointing for them. Karen Monez and our women's rifle team were in Lexington, Kentucky, with rifles in their hands, literally getting ready to defend their national championship, and they were called home. And so, you talk about, and there were other disappointments. Our tennis programs, our golf programs, our track program, and we had our beach volleyball, who's having the best start in their this is year 6, and so they were car they've had in their time here. And so, there was tremendous disappointment all around. I've been really pleasantly surprised, I'd say, by the attitude going forward, because despite that disappointment, I think we all recognize there are bigger issues at play. There's life and death issues at play. And that, as much as sports is important to all of us, those issues are more important than that.
And you have had to make some tough decisions along the way, some decisions that maybe seem tough from the outside, but I know you, and they probably weren't that hard. And that's related to spring sports and those athletes that were going to, participate during the spring and on to the summer, and what their future was like, especially for those seniors. Walk us through that process.
Yeah, well, to give a little more context, the NCAA did provide some legislation for us, permissive legislation,
right?
Which said that we could bring back those spring sports for an additional year of eligibility, all those student athletes, and we decided to honor that. And in this climate, it'll be challenging for us financially to do that. but we felt it was the right thing to do. Chancellor Boschini was supportive of it, which is incredibly generous of him. And it's the right thing to do to bring those young men and young women back. And we think that we'll have about 80 to 85% of those student athletes back here on campus for one more year to finish essentially what they started. And so very excited for them. There's been a number of schools around the country that have decided not to do that. And I'm proud to say that the schools in the Big 12, will be honoring that to some extent. And so just thrilled for the student athletes, and, we'll figure out the other part of it.
Jeremiah, what have those conversations been like with those student athletes who are going to get that extra year? That's got to be a totally different side of the emotional spectrum for you.
Yeah, the ones I've heard from have been really excited. I mean, surprised. Yeah. I remember being a student athlete myself, and I can't imagine coming back for I don't know if that would have been a good thing. But, I'm trying to keep up with Instagram, and social media are a wonderful thing. I'm keeping track of most, and not all of them, on that platform. And I'm just encouraged by how upbeat they are and how positive they're staying. I mean, it's really inspiring.
You think about the inspiration and just knowing that these athletes are now working out on their own. They're doing what they can. That's inspiration for me, knowing that, hey, they're preparing every day for this upcoming season, hoping that these fall seasons occur, right?
Yeah, they have the Big 12 came together with a set of athletic policies to ensure kind of a level playing field, if you will. And those are home workouts. I mean, there's no way around that, right? There's our facilities are closed. Our kids are not here for the most part. We only have about 25 students that are still here on campus who can't get home for one reason or another. And so they're working out from home, and so they're having to take the initiative to get themselves prepared, and they are. And I've told our coaches there's no one I'd rather be in the trenches with than our coaches. They're built for this. So I'm expecting them to come back and be ready to go when we get the notification to do so.
What's your day like? Are you still? It looks to me like you're in the office right now. Are you able to come into the office some? Are you able to continue to do that? Are you working from home?
I'd love to trick you and say that this is my home office. I wish. Yeah, I'm working remotely. I come into the office, office at TCU for probably a few hours a day to take some Zoom calls and conference calls like everyone else is. Working from home is a challenge. I've got two little ones who are on Zoom calls themselves with their school, and the dogs, and all the rest of it. And so, our challenges are just like everyone else who's at home, who have kids and families, and we're making the best of it. The silver lining is the time you get with them that you probably won't have that much time ever again, probably in my life or theirs together. And so that's the silver lining of it, But we're just it's strange being here on campus with no one here. It feels like Christmas Day. There's almost no one here. I know the chancellor's here, and we've got just a handful of people on campus.
When you think about what this country is going through right now, and there is a perspective that you also have that it has affected some of the TCU family, and I think that sort of underlies the importance of the decisions that you're having to make, does it not?
It does, and our wonderful cross country coach Lisa Morgan unfortunately lost her father to the coronavirus, and she's just a wonderful person, and our heart goes out to her and her family, and there are others who are also feeling it financially. We see where our markets are. There's a lot of people that are really struggling, and they've got some big challenges in front of them, and so we're monitoring all that, and we're trying to be as empathetic as possible on a business related item. We've extended our season ticket deadline and trying to be mindful of people's situations because as much as we need to get back to football, and I know we're going to talk about that, there's a lot of uncertainty out there in this virus, in the state of our economy has unfortunately taken a huge toll on a lot of people so far.
You think about the perspective of that we keep using that word because this, to me, has changed perspective for a lot of people. It's been a reset, if you will. But there is still on people's minds, athletics and football specifically, and a lot of questions. And what we did this year as part of our town hall is we asked folks to utilize all of our social media outlets to present some questions for you. And they have access to you now. Are you ready for this?
I love it. It's my favorite part. And before you get started on that, I'd like to say that, we pride ourselves in athletics is oftentimes being the front porch of our campuses. We do at TCU. There are other places that are as important, but we're the front porch. So you come to football games and basketball games, and you gather at those events. But with that comes a big responsibility to, I think, help our communities through that, and to be. I think this is going to be an incredible celebration of solidarity and unity when we do come out of this. So that's what we're looking to, on the other side when we can come back for the fall. So, all right, fire away with your question.
All right, let's get into it. All right, the first one's in here, and there's a ton about football and when it'll start, and is it going to be possible that they'll be playing without fans? Can you give us some insight into where all of that stands right now, Jeremiah?
Sure, it's possible. I think at this point, anything is possible. We are looking at the Big 12 level across the landscape of college football. Every commissioner, every athletic director are constantly talking about every possible scenario. Now, before you return to the game, you got to return to campus. And so, right. How it's going to go, you're going to return to campus, then return to practice, then return to the games. And football is our top priority. There's no denying it. It makes up 85% of most athletic departments' revenues. It is critical that we play a football season. It is critical that, and that could look a number of different ways. It could be a normal season, and we're all hopeful that that's the plan. But as a wise man once told me, hope is not a strategy. So we're preparing for all the other scenarios, which could include a delayed season, a shortened season, a spring season, an interrupted season. The interrupted season, what I mean by that is, and it's probably the most troubling of the scenarios, is where you start a season and then you're forced to stop because of the spike of the virus or what have you, and then you have to delay some games or continue playing later on. So we will be prepared for any of those scenarios, and but it's still, I think it's probably 30 to 45 days before you can really drill down on what the fall is going to look like.
Brian's in here, and it's not this Brian, but it's a good question. I would have taken this one. If we can't play at Cal, is there a possibility it would be played here or moved to another year? That's an interesting. California has been hit hard. They've handled it as well as many states, but they've been hit hard on it.
That's a good question. Thanks for your question, Brian. And the answer is yes to all of those, because everything's on the table. I actually spoke to my counterpart at Cal earlier this week just to open up the lines of communication. Jim Knowlton, who's a wonderful athletic director and a great guy. And we said, look, we don't need to make a decision now, but let's just agree that you need to play the game. We need to play the game. We want to play the game, and we're committed to it. And so what that looks like, whether that's at Cal, under normal conditions, at Cal with no fans or fewer fans, here in Fort Worth, if for some reason it couldn't be played there, or if a neutral site game made sense, or if it couldn't be played at all. So we are looking at all those. He and I have agreed to just continue the conversation and monitor this throughout the spring. And
I want to go back to something you said earlier. I want to go back to something earlier you said about the potential of playing in the spring. And Nick's got a question related to that. It says, if it were moved to the spring, what would that look like? Would the bowl games continue to follow the season? So would those take place in the summer potentially?
Ideally, all those bowl games have large television contracts, yes, including DFP, the College Football Playoff. What's a little tricky, if you will, about playing in the spring, you'd have to play it later in the spring. We know that a lot of the schools in our northern conferences and our northern, even the northern members of the Big 12, playing football in January and February outdoors is not, it's probably not real fan friendly. And so moving that, and that's also the peak of flu season, which a lot of health experts would tell you, there's a chance that we could have a resurgence, if you will, of the virus then. So it's definitely possible. It demonstrates the lengths to which we'll go to preserve all or some of the football season. And so it's on the table and something we talk about pretty regularly.
Speaking of health concerns, Tom's in here with a question that says, if we don't renew season tickets because of health concerns, would those tickets be available to others? Would they still be made available to others?
Thanks for your question, Tom. I think where you're going with this is, if you don't renew your tickets, would we provide it to allow others to access those tickets? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. We do have, as you know, we have an upgrade process, and for tickets that are not renewed, we would allow other fans to move into those. I think, Tom, what I would tell you is that we are committed, assuming we can be back here to play football games, and I'm incredibly optimistic and encouraged that we can. We will make it as safe as possible, and whatever the policies are, we'll take it to another level to make sure that our fans feel and our student athletes feel safe about being in Amon Carter Stadium. And so we will have plenty of reasons aside from TCU football that it makes sense to come back to Amon Carter in September. So, but the answer to Tom's question is yes. The non-renewed tickets will be offered to other fans.
Good. He had a follow-up question about who makes the decision. Is the NCAA going to dictate to all schools? Is it going to be left up to the conferences and their commissioners or the athletic directors? How will that work as far as the fall sports are concerned, and when and if they play?
Yeah, still unclear. Well, I'll tell you this: it's not going to be made by me. It's probably not going to be made by our commissioners. It's likely going to be made by our health officials.
Mm-hmm.
So we won't be able to even return to campus until that's been determined by our local health officials and our elected officials, if you will. And so we'll start there, and then assuming we can get back to some semblance of normalcy, then we'll determine what those seasons look like and when they start, and the schedules for those.
I get the sense that Doug is in sales and marketing because of this question. He says, will there be a TCU mask giveaway at a football game? That's a great one.
Great question, Doug, and thank you for your question. We've got a lot of this, and so, a couple things. The answer to your question is possibly. We're not trying to profit from this. No. This is something that we want to make a dollar on. If we did come back and those were licensed TCU, part of a licensed TCU apparel program, you can imagine the proceeds of that going to a cause that was coronavirus related. I mean, I don't have any desire to market those. Now we'll have to use those for safety purposes, and if it showed great brand support and could go to a great cause, I'd be all for it. And it's something we're looking at. I've asked the team to explore that and to be ready to look at that. One issue we're having is that it's from an apparel side of things. There's just a lot of uncertainty on how fast those items can be turned around just because of the environment. And frankly, those masks right now need to be earmarked and designated for hospitals and healthcare facilities.
Yeah, no question. Let's shift gears a little bit. Colin's in here and asks if Desmond Bain will have his jersey retired. The number. That's a good question early for you there.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. Well, Desmond's one of my all-time favorite student athletes. He's a wonderful young man who's preparing for the NBA draft as we speak. It's hard to say no there. I mean, we typically let these things play out for a few years, and as great as he is, I feel like his legend will even grow more. So I can see it happening. We haven't had a conversation about it yet, but Desmond is certainly deserving. He scored a lot of points. Wearing TCU purple, just a wonderful man.
Speaking of jerseys, we got a question here from Harrison who asks if we will roll out another alternate football uniform this fall. Is that in the works?
Harrison, I'd say no for now, and I'll tell you why. One, we have enough uniforms. I think it's hard to keep track of them sometimes, but no, this is, we like just about every other business you can imagine. I mean, we're in cost containment mode. We don't. We're very concerned about playing it shortened. We experienced a financial loss, obviously, with the cancellation of March Madness and the Big 12 tournament. we have to be incredibly mindful of our resources as a university and as an athletics department. And so we don't have any plans to expand our uniform repertoire right now. That will probably change down the road, but for now, we like the brand new sets that we have.
Related to that, Dean asks if the red jersey is here to stay, and will they be on sale at some point?
Technically, it's not a red jersey. That's red
Yes,
number.
right.
But yeah, we've actually, and this goes back to what I said a moment ago. We've placed the order. Now, getting those uniforms here, a lot of those come from overseas, as you know. There's some uncertainty to that. There's some there is a fair amount of uncertainty in a lot of those orders, and so hopefully they'll be here in time. But yeah, they were a big hit last year, and that jersey is still in play.
Lewis, with a big picture question for you. What's been your favorite TCU sports moment since becoming athletic director? And I don't mean to put you on the spot there because there's been a ton of them.
Jeez, wow. Well, I think the Alamo Bowl victory, come behind victory over Stanford, which was ironically was one of my first moments, sticks out. Going to the White House with the women's rifle team was another. I'd say, and then going back to the NCAA tournament with the men's basketball team when they went to Detroit for the first time, and since Jamie Dixon had been in a TCU uniform, I'd say those three really jump out, and you could probably put them in any order.
Let's go with the next question from Damon. Will the East Side ribbon cutting wait for football season? I know that's been on your mind a lot.
Well, this is exciting. This isn't public knowledge to a large degree yet, but we're going to do to the best that we know, has never been done before, which is a virtual dedication and ribbon cutting. The Frog Club team has really put together a cool program because we know our donors are at home. The stadium is complete. It looks unbelievable. And, we want to share this with them. It's one really cool moment here on campus is when they've walked us through the finished East Side. And so we are putting together a virtual personalized dedication ribbon cutting for our donors that will break out this spring for them. And so just really excited for them. So no, we won't have to wait until the fall. When the fall comes, hopefully the facility is full of people and not just on TCU football Saturdays.
What is the status of reopening facilities in the fall? When will that happen? Do you have any timetable for that?
We've canceled camps and conferences on campus for the summer. And it's just going to be a situation where until our local health officials determine that we can gather in public and the testing and tracing protocols are in place to do it safely, we don't have a definite date yet. I mean, we've got some things on the calendar. We've rescheduled graduation for August. The chancellor did, which is awesome. Really excited for them to be able to do that here on campus. But even that, could be affected if we don't have the all clear, if you will.
Right.
So still, it's just too early to determine that. All of our facilities are locked right now, from Schulmeyer Arena to the fields, to only essential personnel for business continuity are really here on campus. So it's really kind of a quiet environment now.
We were talking earlier about some of your most favorite moments since being athletic director. There was one that stands out for fans, and that's related to this next question that comes up from Skylar, who says, can we get some official, because it's our stadium, merchandise?
What was the name of the person that submitted the question?
Skylar.
Skylar, good one. Skylar might have a couple burner Twitter accounts. I think I hear this. I hear about this a lot. So there are no plans to do that yet. Ironically, at some of our home football games, I see some people in the parking lots that for some reason decided that would be a good idea to make those shirts. It's got my face. But no plans for that yet. I still hear about that occasionally from our friends down in Austin. But I just as a remind them, it is our stadium. That hasn't changed.
Exactly. I love it. Well, If you do come up with that merchandise, I'm an XL. Put me down on the list. I'll buy one of those for sure. Hey, two quick questions before we get out of here, and I think this one is fitting. Is there anything that fans can do to support student athletes during these times? And I know we have to be cognizant of the NCAA rules here, but that's a great question because these student athletes are going through a tough time right now. Anything fans can do specifically?
Well, there's a few things. We have a emergency crisis fund here on campus that goes to all students, not just student athletes. And there are some students who are in need. Their families are in need. They've lost jobs or they're experiencing financial hardships. So supporting that fund is one way. You know, we're posting a lot on social media, and retweeting, reposting would be great. Because it's encouraging to them, and it shows that we're behind them. And then, you know, I would just say to pray for them and for all of our community, for our campus and our university and our local, national, and international communities. I think if you all three of those things, or any combination thereof, I think is probably the best thing you can do for our student athletes right now.
And Steve's in here with a final question. If football games are played without spectators, which is one of the possibilities that was on the table that you mentioned, will season ticket holders be given a refund? He said, I hate to have to worry about that being a possibility, but, you know, legitimate question there from Steve.
Yeah, Steve, great question. And I'd have the same question, frankly, if I were a season ticket holder also. And the answer is yes. I mean, if the games are canceled or you cannot attend the game because it's determined by our health officials that it's unsafe to do so, we'll give full refunds, and that includes the donation part of the ticket as well. I mean, I like to say, pride ourselves that we've done the right thing. We did this for the baseball. We'll continue to do the right thing, and we recognize the challenges people are experiencing, and we're certainly appreciative that people are renewing at the rate they are, and can see the support folks have for the Frogs. That's really it's been wonderful for us. But if the situation calls for it, Steve, we will do the right thing and return that money. But hopefully we won't have to, and we'll see you in Amon Carter Stadium.
Jeremiah, when the Big 12 tournament was canceled, I was walking out of the arena that night, knowing that very well may be the last college basketball game. And Commissioner Bob Bowlesby was on the concourse by himself, walking around, and I stopped and we had a quick conversation. And I looked at him and I said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I'm looking for the handbook on how to handle this, and I don't find one." And you have been going through the same sort of thing. There is no handbook for how to handle this situation. You're sort of writing it as you go, but thanks for what you're doing. Thanks for your leadership, because I know it's been challenging. I know it has.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I mean, I think if you start with a good foundation and you've got a good team, you've got a heck of a head start. And fortunately, we've got those here on campus. I'm surrounded by it every day, and so we're just taking it one day at a time. But I appreciate you saying that, Brian.
All right, Jeremiah, this has been fun, the virtual town hall. It's not as fun as doing it in person, I'll tell you that. I'm ready to get back to that.
Yeah, I think we're all ready to, get our hair cut.
Shave the beard.
I mean, I even put on cologne for you today. So,
I thought I noticed that.
Great being with you, Brian. Look forward to doing this again in person soon.
All right, there he goes, Athletic Director Jeremiah Donati, joining us today for our virtual town hall here for TCU Athletics. We look forward to seeing you in person, and hopefully that happens very soon. Thanks for your support of TCU Athletics, and thanks for joining us here today.